Hey guys, Dr. Eric Davis here, and I wanted to speak with you today about the progression of usage. We hear all sorts of debate about if addiction's a choice and, how do people let this happen and so forth. And so I want to share with you some pictures that I draw, and I am not a good artist, let me get that out of the way. But I want to share with you some pictures and kind of how I explain the progression of usage to people who are not familiar with the disease of addiction. So without further ado, let's get started. So we start out and this is us, okay? We are just living our lives, happy as can be, and life is good. One day along comes this little guy, okay, this little cute cuddly buddy that jumps up on our shoulder. And he's got different ears, and he says, hey, what are you doing? And we hang out, and we just have a great time, We're hanging out with him, and for the first time ever, we feel complete. We don't sweat the small stuff. And we say to this little cuddly dude, we say, hey, man, I want to hang out more often, We need to hang out all the time. So anyway, if anyone has ever had a cute kitten in your neighborhood that you'd like to see again, all you have to do for it to come back at least once is feed it. So because we want this guy to keep coming back, we start feeding him. Okay? The problem is, just like with kids or plants or pets, when you feed something, it gets bigger. So we start feeding this guy, and eventually he's as big as we are. And so here's what we have there. Okay, here's us again. We're not very happy. And here's our buddy. Okay, and he is having the time of his life. He's every bit as big as we are. And what that looks like is sometimes we don't really want to hang out. We're like, look, man, I got to go to work. I don't want to hang out today. And he says, well, I'm hanging out, and kind of fights with us, and he ends up winning. He wins the shoving match, and he's there for the day because he wants to hang out, even if we don't want him to. So the bigger something gets, the more we have to keep feeding it, right? Eventually, our friend gets so large that we can't come up with enough food to feed him. So what does he eat? What's left? Well, here's what we find out. Okay, that cute cuddly buddy that we had back here is now a big, gigantic, huge monster. He's got big teeth and he's mean. And we can't come up with enough to feed him, so he eats the only logical thing that's left, which is us. And this is what active addiction looks like. What's always been fascinating to me, and I can relate to this as a person in recovery myself, what has always really been interesting is that a person will come into my office, and I'm looking at referral paperwork and so forth, and they will have 4 DUIs, okay? So a history of driving under the influence, charged and convicted 4 times. And they will proceed to tell me how this is what their problem looks like. And they'll say, well, I don't understand what everybody's issue is. I mean, give me a break, like, everybody's just picking on me. But that's part of the disease of addiction. It's that denial. It's the only illness that tells us we do not have a problem. So the belly of the beast, what does that actually look like in regular life? Well, what that looks like is I've got some money and I need to pay my bills. The monster's really hungry. Or, you know what? I've got just enough money to buy that big wheel for my daughter that she wanted for her birthday. But the monster is so hungry. And we end up making the monster, or feeding the monster, the priority. We go where the monster wants to go. We do what the monster wants to do. And that's what active addiction really looks like. As I was saying, denial makes us think that we're back here. That's how cunning, baffling, and powerful addiction is. So what does recovery look like? All right, I'm going to draw another picture for you. This is what recovery looks like. I'm going to draw a line here. So this is our recovery picture. So in recovery, we are smiling because we have begun to have our life back. But there's a catch. Okay? This is a cage. And so the monster, either through treatment, through fellowship, through whatever, has been shrunk down to a manageable size again. And he's in a cage. Now, if you've ever had a hamster, you know that sometimes in the middle of the night, it is just going crazy, throwing wood chips all over. I mean, it can wake you up. It's running all across the cage. But other times, that hamster is so quiet, you wouldn't even know that it's there. And that's how the monster is, okay? This is the catch. We have to carry him in the cage with us wherever we go. We can't just sit the cage down and leave him and walk off. We can't just, throw the cage into the water somewhere or anything like that. It's a part of us. And just like we would have to do on any cage with something in it, we have to do maintenance on this cage, because sometimes the monster is trying to gnaw his way, through the bars, or jumping and kicking things and putting dents in it. So we have to take care of the cage. And that's what relapse prevention is. So join us for relapse prevention. The recovery raft is what the video will be called. And I'll see you then. Thanks for joining me today.